Hey everyone, Andy here. I'm with Vishal. He is in our B&B Leverage community. So if you don't mind, just tell us a little bit about yourself. Who are you? What do you do in your day to day?
Sure. Yeah. Hey, everyone. I'm Vishal. I work in the tech space. I work in tech product management. That's like my day-to-day full-time job. And real estate has become kind of an interest of mine for a few years now. So haven't done anything too extreme in it yet. So I own a house in Seattle that I kind of bought and managed as a long-term rental. But once I learned about B&B leverage and just like the whole ordeal with Airbnb arbitrage, especially during a period like now where interest rates are so high and it's tough to just like buy properties and you get some of these added benefits of like if, things happen in the house and stuff, it's not like completely my responsibility, right? To, go in and take care of it. Once I kind of heard about this whole process, I definitely became enamored with that. And so I've been, part of B&B Leverage and have had a property in Westminster, Colorado, which is like a Denver suburb for a few months now. And could just kind of learning the process, the ins and outs of how this all been going, and just like starting to generate some good bookings and get some good interest for my Airbnb and on other platforms as well. But I'm gonna keep using Airbnb because that's like the one that's worked the best for me thus far.
Yeah, they take Airbnb definitely takes like the best care of their people. So it's nice when you're in an area where Airbnb does well, so you can just kind of focus a lot of the reservations within there. So how did you first hear about us? Like how did you come across us?
Yeah, so I think actually it was one of those Instagram ads that JR put out.
Okay.
And it was like really interesting. So you see like a lot of those these days in a bunch of different industries, like be it Airbnb arbitrage or like Amazon, kind of like either drop shipping or whatever it's called, it's things like that. But I think with JR's video, it definitely seemed like it wasn't like fake, or it seemed like it kind of makes sense, right? And like, I've stayed in Airbnbs for like, many years now and kind of understand like when you enter an Airbnb, what's the difference between, oh, like this is an awesome Airbnb and then, like, okay, we're just kind of like, staying here just to sleep and then we're going to try to be out the whole day. So just like, being like a casual observer of that kind of stuff, you can kind of get a sense for like, okay, how could like this industry be lucrative for a host, right?
Yep.
So that's kind of how I heard about it, set up a call. Yeah, and obviously, as with anything, it's like you have a little bit of skepticism initially, like, okay, is this really going to work and all that kind of stuff. But I think just like having access to a bunch of people, like, not just like, JR, but like, once you enter that community, like a bunch of other people who are in the same shoes as you and kind of going through the same process, people from all walks of life, right? Like you have
Yep.
people who are like real estate agents who like, live and breathe kind of real estate and all of this stuff. And people like me in tech, like people in completely different spaces that's just like, hey, like I want, some disposable income or like side income, like another way to kind of passively generate good revenue and like,
Yeah.
be like a small business owner essentially without needing to like open up a storefront or, get a bunch of inventory of stuff and just like kind of be able to manage this whole process from the comfort of your own home. And I think there aren't really many business models that are like that, right? So
Yeah.
it's just like going through this whole process was really interesting just to learn about that stuff. But yeah, initially I came across it just like, looking at that Instagram video and then doing a little bit of research online about this whole process of Airbnb arbitrage.
Yeah, love it. So what did you think about the program? So before you got to the point of getting a property, like how
Mhm.
was the training process? What was it like to kind of be searching for a property and figuring out the underwriting and is this the right fit? How was that for you?
Yeah, absolutely. So for me, I think like starting with like the videos, like the modules, right, about like what you should be thinking about and like, how to go about doing all these things. It was like very cool just to have like that knowledge up front, right? So that, like you understand, okay, how am I going to be successful? Not just like in this stage of like when I'm looking for a property, but like throughout, like once this thing begins, like it begins, right? It's like you're
Yeah.
kind of learning on the job to a sense. So, it was just really cool to see that and really cool to be part of the community and just like ask questions and have, no matter how smart or dumb the question was, always have people come in and answer and give their input. I think having that was, very useful. So, yeah, I mean, the process of looking for a property, I wasn't too picky on like where I wanted to do it. So I currently live in the Seattle area. Obviously, the West Coast as a whole is very expensive. So
Yes.
um, people don't usually do this kind of stuff here. So, you think about like warmer places like Florida and Arizona, and you look at places like, Colorado and Minnesota and in the north and stuff, and you see the trade-offs with all of these places, right? Like when are the slow months versus the warm months? They're kind of flipped based on the climate and things like that. You want to be in a city that is like has a growing population, and just seeing like on like these different weekly calls and stuff, whether you're getting a property for arbitrage or you're buying something, like you kind of have to consider some of the same things, right? Like, are people moving there? What are the tourism kind of attractions? What are people coming for? And like be able to project this like going forward, right? Because when you get into this business, it's not like I just want to do this for a few months or a year and then leave. This is like, a long-term thing, right? So it's just
Yeah.
like getting into that whole process. I think it kind of like flexes that muscle of like, understanding good real estate opportunities across the board, right? Like you learn how to do it now for arbitrage, and it's applicable to like if you do want to get into like, larger real estate deals and things like that in the future. So like that whole educational experience of gathering all of this stuff was definitely really cool. And now like even if I'm a guest in Airbnb, I like, since I'm a host as well, I kind of think about like, okay, like, if we want a late checkout or something, and I'm using this example because this
Yeah.
just happened this past weekend. Like, if we want a late checkout, it's like, oh, okay, let me go check. It looks like the host doesn't have anyone checking in tomorrow or like for the next few days. Maybe they're more likely to give us, a late checkout, and, kind of like thinking about how I would operate if I was a host as well. So,
The
kind
insider
of
knowledge, it's good to have. Yeah.
exactly, right. It's applicable to like the day to day and stuff as well. So yeah,
Yeah.
so that's kind of how this whole process has been for me so far.
Love it. And what about managing remotely? I think a good 90% of people in this community manage a property that's not necessarily local. How's that been for you?
Yeah, for me, it's been pretty smooth, honestly. I
Yeah.
think, like as everyone says, the important thing is having a good like boots on the ground kind of, team, right, to help you out.
Yeah.
And for most people, that's the cleaning team. For me, it's definitely the case that way as well. So my cleaner, his name is Chaz. I actually got his contact through someone else in the community, and now I'm, always texting Chaz about anything like, hey, can you just like drop by the house and check this thing? Can you do these things for me? And he's always happy to help. He has a team, a cleaning team that, does every single Airbnb clean for me.
Okay.
And then on top of that, I have like a handyman contact. I have contact for like the property management company that manages the rental of the house as well. And so, I have all these contacts, just like text different people whenever I need certain things, right? Something's wrong in the house. Like a few weeks ago, a large tree branch fell down like close to the house. So I called the
Mm,
property management company to come and just take it away. And they're very helpful about like doing all this stuff without any cost to me, given
yeah.
that it's not like my fault or a guest's fault. It's just like some of these things just happen. The cleaning
Yeah.
team is, very useful as well. Handyman is there for taking care of when stuff does go wrong. So I think just managing all these relationships and having easy access to them is like the number one like key to success, other than the whole like good design and like being nice to your guests and all that kind of stuff. So
Yeah.
for me, just like, we're in a very digital world now, even more so you could argue like post COVID and whatnot. So
Mhm.
because of that, and like because my full-time job also is like fully remote, I think, like the power of communication remotely is like as key,
So
as ever,
crucial.
right? So so yeah, it's like to me, it's been pretty smooth, and I could
Yeah.
definitely see it continuing that way.
Yeah. So design, did you do design yourself? Did you use a design team?
Yeah, absolutely. So I used a design team.
Okay.
I met this team called Rank One Stays. So they have a founder named Brandon who actually lives in kind of that Colorado, Denver area. And actually, I think I don't know if how many properties he kind of takes on to do design for, but I sent him the listing and he was like, "Oh, this is like a street or two over from where I grew up," which is kind of crazy because he does these kinds of designs like all over the country. And so the
Yeah.
fact that, we found a property that close was definitely very convenient. But yeah, I mean, they're like a very good, team. And I know like now I was between them and like using the B&B leverage team as well. And I think I could have not gone wrong with either. Like
Yeah.
ultimately, like cost was around the same and all this stuff. I just ended up going with Brandon because he had like the time and availability to come in right away. So
Yeah,
Yeah, did that. And obviously like everyone says, right, good design is like really the key differentiator. And so having good like amenities, and just like nice things to do given like the location of the house. And if you want like a hot tub or like a fire pit in the backyard, like allow people to really utilize like as much of the space as they can, right? Like including backyard and things like that. It's
yeah.
like, like, yeah, you can like I can think about that, but actually executing on it, it definitely takes like someone who's very creative and able to, kind of put in the work, or just like
Yeah.
hiring a team who can do it. So yeah, I did that, and I have like absolutely no regrets, like, going with a good design team that does this,
Professional
like,
design services. Yeah. What are
exactly.
your kind of like standout? What makes your property stand out in your market?
Yeah, I think like it has a little bit of everything. And like one thing that I honestly didn't even realize until I've seen my guest reviews is that the location is really good as well, right? It's like right next to a highway that goes straight to both Boulder and Denver, which is obviously very good, and also a bunch of like grocery stores, restaurants close by. But I think in terms of the house itself, like design wise, we got like it, like if I was to stay there, I could see myself like not wanting to leave the Airbnb that often, right? And what I mean by
Oh,
that is
that's a
it
good thing to
has
have.
right, right. And that's like things like just like simple things, right? Pool table and foosball table with your friends. One thing that personally to me like actually has some kind of sentimental value. We have an NFL Blitz like arcade machine, and
Uh-huh.
that was like a game that I used to always play like growing up with my dad on the Nintendo 64. So when I saw one of those, I'm like, oh, we need one in the house. And then just like a lot of space, right? Like, it takes like 12 people, and like I mean, honestly, like there could even be room for more, probably just like very spacious,
Yeah.
a good design, like comfortable furniture, TVs in every single room, and like, comfortable beds, like multiple king size beds, all that kind of stuff. And then in the backyard, we have like a fire pit, like on the patio, and then also like a mini golf, like a putt golf, kind of turf. So, when it's warm outside, especially, and people are just kind of want to lounge around, hang out in the backyard, there's a lot of stuff to do there as well. And of course, like a grill and things like that. So,
You
and
got
on
it
top of
all.
that,
It sounds like a really good setup. Yeah.
yeah,
And it makes, and things like you said, those personal ties to things you love to do with your dad, like that's what really draws out that great guest experience, when they can relate and like have all the things that you take into consideration of what you'd want to experience and you'd want in the stay, being able to reflect that for your guests makes all the difference. I love that. That's really cool.
absolutely. Yeah.
So coming into, spring, summer months, how's your calendar looking?
Yeah, it's looking really good actually. I'm really excited for the summer months. So, people kind of go both ways on saying whether it's better to launch like during the slower season or the
Yep.
warm or the, faster
Peak
season.
season. Hmm.
Yeah, the peak season. I think, for me, it's good because obviously during the slower season you're like trying to get bookings and all that kind of stuff, but you're also learning and slowly like building up stays and reviews and all that kind of stuff. So it's set to align for me perfectly, so that
Yeah.
we're heading into the spring and summer now. I'm about to collect Superhost status, and I'm like, which is definitely really
So
awesome.
exciting.
And
Congratulations.
thank you, thank you. And yeah, I mean, like I have most weekends in May booked out, most weekends in July booked out, which is wild because using like price labs and stuff, I thought
Yep.
it's very highly priced for July, but still it's just there's that much demand that people are willing to pay that anyways. And I definitely have a bunch of weekends left to fill out in the summer, but I like have no doubt in my mind that they'll get filled up. And so really like, these months, right? March to like September, October is like peak season in my
Yep.
market. And so, going into that, obviously it's a huge deal, and I'm really excited for all that is to come. So,
Yeah.
yeah, it's just like I said, it's aligned very well where January and February, it's like slower season, but you're also learning along the way, just like guest management, handling kind of like cleaners and like understanding what should they be aware of from stay to stay. Because some of that, even though, I'm remote, I'm hands off, it's like it's still my responsibility at the end of the day, right? Like
Cool.
the cleaner is there, but I should tell them like, hey, look out for this, let me know like if we need to like change the towels out if they're getting old, and some of these things. So just like setting that up initially, it's like after that, it's all them, right? They'll be like, okay, like every couple months we'll know to like do this check. maybe do a deep clean every few months, like things like that. So
Yeah.
just really just like accumulating a lot of knowledge. I think I could ramble on and on about like all these relationships and things to do, but overall, just like really excited for the summer season and taking like what I've learned thus far and
Yep.
continuing to apply it when, there's like just maximum occupancy.
Yeah. Put in all the work during the off seasons, you can reap the benefits on the peak season.
Exactly, exactly.
Love it. Okay. So I know at some point you probably were on the fence about this program of, is it the right fit? What would you say to someone who maybe is thinking like not so sure about this B&B leverage? What
Mhm.
would you say to them?
Yeah, I think, as with everything, it's important to do a little bit of your own like research and make sure it's something you're comfortable with, right? Like
Yep.
nothing, no investment is like completely risk-free, but there are investments that like you can put in the effort, get the knowledge to make it as minimal risk as possible, right? And
Yep.
so how that looks for this program is, really being intentional about like, oh, I want to go into this specific market, or I want to spend like maximum this much per month on rent and things like that. So you understand what your risk tolerance is, what you're comfortable with. But once you get into the program, it's like, there's really minimal reason to, doubt this whole process, right? Just because, like I mentioned, this community is amazing. You can always ask questions to people. You can join these coaching calls, do like, real life, like, kind of get examples how other people are doing, what problems are they running into, how do I use price labs, how do I use all these other tools, and like that kind of knowledge. It's like not as easy to get just by looking at like YouTube videos and stuff. Like talking to people and stuff is really awesome. So so I think, for people who are interested, you do your own research, and then once you join the program, you'll know that you are in good hands, you'll be supported and all that kind of stuff. So at the end of the day, like a lot of people come in without any experience, some people come in with some, you could be all over the board, but I think just, your risk tolerance is everything, but just come in ready to rock, once you do that initial research.
Yeah, no, you've been an awesome member of our community. I think that's what I love the most is that community page. It's so many different investors from so many different walks of life kind of coming together, sharing their experiences, and like being able to use that as a resource of what do I do in this situation, or even celebrate the wins, right? Like I love seeing your wins. I love seeing like what's going well. So that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'm so
It's
glad that,
good. It's good motivation, right? For
yeah,
everyone. It's like they could be in a completely different market or the same, right? But seeing that, people are having success. And, outside of this community, you'll probably hear or like see a bunch of articles like, oh, Airbnb, like someone will write a blog, like, I don't like Airbnb. I only want to stay in hotels. And it's easy
yep,
to see that stuff and like be like, oh, like, I'm going to get discouraged or I don't feel good about that. But seeing the wins, right, is like the perfect like counter for that, right? It's
yeah,
like, people are still having success. Airbnb's revenue is continuing to go up, and that's always a good sign. I know JR kind of does this thing every quarter. He looks at like how Airbnb is doing, and like, the past like many quarters, it's just been ticking up. So
yeah.
seeing some of these kinds of stats, especially, I mean, maybe not for everyone, but for someone like me who's like a statistics nerd and like comes from a stats background, it's cool seeing these things, right? And it makes
Yeah.
sense. So
The tech brain in you is like, let me see the numbers.
exactly, right.
Yeah. Awesome. That's amazing. Well, I really appreciate you kind of taking the time to chat through your experience to date and how the program has been for you. And I'm so excited for you to get that super host status and officially be, rocking and rolling with everything into the peak months.
Absolutely. Yeah, I
Yeah.
appreciate that, Andy. Thank you for taking the time as well. And yeah, I mean, like, you are one of the people in the community, always answering people's questions and supporting people's wins and things like that. So yeah, appreciate all your time and commitment to this program as well.
Yeah. Absolutely. Good stuff. Well, thank you again. And I'm sure we'll chat soon.
Yeah, absolutely. Perfect.
Okay.